So next up we have, I've lost my thing, we've got Debra from Moors for the Future, who is the comms manager. So Moors for the Future are a organisation that do a lot of the peatland restoration work in the Peak District and are a key project partner of the Protect NFM project. And Debra's going to be talking about their Bogtastic van. So over to you, Debra.
Thank you. I'm just going to try and share my screen. Right. I need to. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, and we can see your screen. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So thanks for the introduction. So I'm going to talk briefly about the Bogtastic van, which is one of our key engagement tools. Give you an introduction to the partnership, a bit of background on the problem that we're trying to communicate about, try and give you a tour of the van as much as I can, and how it's been used over the past couple of years, how successful it's been, and some of the pros and cons of the van. So just, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay, so a little bit about the partnership. We've been going since 2003, and we work across the South Pennines Peak District and West Pennine Moors, and done a lot of bare peat restoration. We have a programme of work that includes our monitoring, and our communications is a key part of our work, because we want to communicate about the work and actually get people involved in protecting, particularly in relation to wildfires. So just a little bit about the Peak District and South Pennines. If you aren't familiar with it, it contains blanket bog habitat, which is rarer than rainforest, and we've got a big resource of blanket bog in the UK, 10 to 15% of the global resource in the UK, and it's kind of undervalued in many ways. So that's one of the things that we try and get across to people. And obviously it's currently vulnerable to climate change, so it's becoming more of an urgent issue. So this is what we're trying to communicate about. Back in 2003, we had really large areas of bare peat which were eroding, which were bad for flood, for biodiversity and for carbon loss. And it's been transformed in large part to the image that you can see on the right. And that's a more natural habitat, and the plant that you can see on the left hand side, the carpet, that's sphagnum moss, which is a tiny plant which I think's got superpowers of carbon storage, of water retention, and it's a key peat building plant. So the Bogtastic van was a concept that we came up with some time ago as a way of trying to get across some of those complicated concepts around blanket bogs and the conservation works and the science. And we wanted to take people on a journey, Bogtastic, make it fun, make it a little bit silly, enjoyable for all the family. And we were lucky enough to get funding for this, to develop the van by the EU LIFE programme under our More Life 2020 project. And really the brief was to communicate about the dangers of moorland wildfires and to inspire people to protect a habitat that they probably have never experienced. We've tried to make it positive and uplifting, and from the very start, when people see the van, we've given them a collage of images from sort of big landscapes to some of the small details to try and sort of draw people in and get them to come and find out a bit more. So as we take people on the Bogtastic journey, we've got some scientific models, which this one here is our gully blocking model. So it demonstrates the effects of revegetation on natural flood management. And you can see there some school children in Stalybridge just having a look at that. And it's you don't need to understand the concepts in detail. It's about in the kind of big picture, there's obviously a lot of scientific evidence backing that up if people want to find out more, but it's trying to get people into that, getting them engaged in the basic concepts. So we've got a range of activities along that sort of theme. Demonstrations, we've got fancy dress costumes for children, we've got games on a tablet, and we've even got a kind of Sphagnum Moss themed Connect 4 game, which people will come along and try out, even if they don't want to kind of engage and get inside the van first off. So once we get people engaged in conversation, and they will go inside the van, and from the very start, when you step inside the van, we've chosen kind of positive, uplifting messages. So we're using wording like grand, marvelous, bogtastic, just to kind of get people feeling excited and enthused. Inside the van, there's a seated area where people can sit down and watch a short film, which is we try to make it as immersive as we can, so give people that experience of being on a blanket bog. So there's sound, there's lighting effects, and there's sense of moorland plants. It gives you a kind of day in the life of a moor across all of the 4 seasons in a 5-minute journey, and the floor even has a kind of realistic bog wobble feel to it, so it kind of moves when you step on it, just like a rocket. So in terms of the audience, we tried to make it as specific as possible. So we were looking at influencing the public who've never experienced the blanket bog habitat before, and we narrowed that down to deliver something suitable for families. And we felt that if we got families, if we got children enthused, then their parents would come along and learn something as well. And we've aimed to take it around the South Pennines, into sort of country shows, but also into the city centres, so taking it as widely as possible. And that was our kind of focus, but it's actually been widely useful than we'd expect. We've taken it to Sheffield University and National Trust properties like Lyme Park near Manchester, and into Manchester city centre. So yeah, has it worked? So it has worked really well. We took it out in February 2018 for the first time, and we've had 115 visits, mainly over the summer months, because it's difficult to get around the South Pennines in winter. We've had 115 visits and 9,000 conversations, and they tend to be high quality engagements where people do learn something and take away our key messages. It allows us to have a deeper engagement, and we've even used it for kind of advocacy. So there's an example there of us talking to Sir James Bevan, the Environment Agency CEO, and it's a good illustration of the need for communication, I think, at that kind of level. Negatives: it doesn't work in every situation. There are logistical problems with it. It's quite a big vehicle, and the location is really key. So we need to look at places that have a really high footfall, people coming past. If we're going to take that, we need a couple of people, members of staff with it. So it's a kind of time investment. And just sort of COVID, we're all having to talk about that. We haven't been able to take the van out since March, so we've moved our engagement online. We've put our Bogtastic film online, so you can have a look at it on our website. And we've set up a series of webcasts, which were live webcasts, a little bit like this, where people could talk to one of our practitioners and get a kind of their personal view. So trying to replicate those conversations that we've been having with people. But we do know that having online communications, it's people coming to us and not us going to where the people are to a certain extent. So I think it's more difficult to reach kind of new audiences that way. And just finally, a few quotes from our visitors book. People love the demonstrations, and yeah, it's really good for children and families. It's been a really successful tool for engagement, really good for face-to-face communications. And I think, you know, the face-to-face communications is the key. I think if you took away the van and used the demonstrations, we'd still have a pretty good solution. So I think there's lots of applications there to use in future. I think that's my last slide. Yeah, that's my last slide. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Deborah. I think we've just lost Emma there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's great to hear about your van and the success of it all. Do we have any questions from anyone at all? Any questions? Can't see anything on the chat, but if there's anyone's got.
Yeah, I just had one. Sorry,
Yeah, go for it.
I just put my camera on. Hold on.
That's fine.
Claire Twigger-Ross. Thank you. That was really interesting. I just wondered whether you were, was it Debra? Whether you were able to follow up, evaluate what people thought they got out of the experience. So it's just something, because I've been thinking about it recently, is, you know, actually what did people learn and what did they take away?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think the way that we've been doing it so far is feedback from our visitors book. We would like to do some kind of more formal studies, but I think we'll need to get some additional funding to do that, to kind of develop a good methodology, so that we've got some robust data from that. The visitors book, I haven't been able to get my hands on it, so I've got those two quotes, but I think it does say, you know, well, it doesn't necessarily say what people have learned.
Yeah.
So we kind of, yeah, we do know, but we don't have that sort of data. And we have thought about, you know, do we want to give people a questionnaire? That's a little bit of extra time. They're spending quite a lot of time in the van, so you know, will they be willing to fill in a questionnaire? But it's something that we are thinking about in terms of evaluating it.
Now that sounds really interesting. Yeah, you could have something really simple where people just put smiley faces against things, or, you know, something that's fun. But it's always good to do a bit of evaluation to find out what impact it's having. But it sounds great. I think it looks a great van.
Emma, you're still on mute. I know you're talking. Yeah.
Oh dear, sorry, I dropped out for a minute there. The joys of modern technology, eh? So thank you for that. Thank you for stepping in, Joe. Thank you, Deborah. Has anyone got any more questions for Deborah before we move on? And we have a question in the chat. Who made the games in the tablets? From Julie Lawrence.
So we've got one game in the tablet, I think. It's called Lizzie Lizard, and it's a wildfire game. So it involves the sort of children using helicopters to put out fires and to do the conservation works as well. It was developed from a story that we had written for a previous project, but we got a software developer to do the game for us. So it was kind of we provided the idea, and they developed the kind of graphics and the technical side of the game.
Brilliant, thank you, Deborah. If anyone's got any more questions for Deborah, pop them in the chat. Are you okay to keep an eye on that for the next few minutes, Deborah?
Yeah, no problem.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.